Welcome to another episode of Shooting Science. On today's episode, we are going to check out a relatively new trigger company that only focuses on Glock. Their triggers are a little different than all of the twitchy, light competition triggers you see out there with all these other companies. Their main focus is to provide you with a super reliable, smooth, and consistent trigger that you can confidently carry with every day. Their aim is to remove all that slop out of your stock Glock trigger without removing any of the reliability. Also, you're going to want to watch this one all the way through to the end because somewhere towards the end of this video, I'm going to share a special discount code with you guys in case you wanted to go pick one of these triggers up for yourself. So sit back, relax, watch the video, and decide for yourself if one of these is right for you. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so what I have here is the Trigger Shark 10mm Gen 5 trigger, the Glock tool, a 5/32 punch, my armorer's block, aka roll of tape, some oil in case I need it, a flathead screwdriver in case I need it, and 2 different shaped picks. All right, so the first thing I want to do is take a look at the stock trigger. Make sure there's nothing in there. So here you can see how long the take-up is on my stock Glock trigger. And there's the spongy wall and the break. Here's the reset. One more time, here's some take-up that goes from there to there. And then you have a spongy, undefined wall right here. I'm not really sure when it's going to break. Then there it breaks. So we're going to see if this Trigger Shark can take care of that. Let's also measure the trigger and see what the weight is before and after. So stock trigger, we're just going to do 5 pulls and see what weights we get. A little bit past 6 pounds. £5 pounds. 6.5 pounds. All right, so far we're between 5 pounds and 6.5 pounds for stock. That one was closer to 7, past 6.5. And that one's just over 6. So after those 5 pulls, we have somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds for the stock trigger pull weight. All right, let's install the Trigger Shark trigger. Screwdriver already coming in handy. So these are the components that you get. You have the connector, the trigger body, trigger shoe with the trigger bar, and a little tiny Allen wrench. All right, let's peel these parts off this paper and start putting it together. This thing is nice and shiny. Now what's cool is Trigger Shark uses mostly OEM Glock components. So this trigger is just fully polished, slightly modified, and using OEM Glock parts for full reliability. Okay, let me shine this thing up and get all this glue off of here. Okay, let's take a better look at this thing. So this is polymer. It's got the Trigger Shark logo and this cool pattern etched into the trigger shoe. I want to say it's a shark skin pattern. You can feel it a little bit. It's got a little bit of a texture on there, but it's really subtle and quite nice. This thing also has a smoothed out safety tab. So like your Glock trigger might have a bead from the molding and the plastic on it. This one is smoothed out for a comfortable feel. All right, next up, we've got to take apart the Glock. So this is a Gen 5 G29. You may have seen it in my other video. we're going to take the slide off. For this, I like to use my pinky to pull the trigger while my other fingers hold down the slide lock tabs. So this is a Gen 5. If you have an older Glock, you're also going to have a pin up here. That pin would be for the locking block. On this one, it's not there. So it's all held in place by one pin now, which is nice on these Gen 5s. So if you have an older Glock, take that top pin out first, then take this pin out next. And this pin is going to go through that hole. And finally, we're going to take this pin out right here. So we're going to go this pin and then that pin. What you have to do is jiggle and wiggle this while you push your punch down on that. And then the pin should drop out on the other side. Although for me, this pin might be a little tricky. Since it's pretty fresh and I've only got 200 rounds through this gun, this pin might want to fight me, but we'll see how it goes. So here we go. Woo. Okay, that was way easier than I thought. It might be a Gen 5 thing, or I might have gotten lucky, but that went pretty easy. Awesome. All right, I'm going to take this pin out. I'm just going to use one of these Glock tools. And you don't have to use one of these. You can just use a regular punch if that's all you have. That one came out super easy as well. All right, and now I can start pulling this stuff out. Be careful jamming your screwdriver in here like this under the locking block. Use some slow, smooth, applied pressure to force that locking block up and out. There we go. Okay, that looks a little different on a Gen 5, doesn't it? It sure does. So this is the new ambidextrous slide release that doesn't have that weird curly, weird spring that you have to jam up under the trigger. Now we can pull the trigger assembly out. I'm going to go for the back of the assembly here so that I don't bend anything. As you can see, the stock trigger bar is matte and textured. It is not shiny at all. Let's compare that to the Trigger Shark trigger bar in assembly. And as you can see here, every piece of exposed metal on the Trigger Shark assembly is much, much shinier and more polished than what I just pulled out of my stock Glock. I don't know if you can see that, but even that part number matches exactly. Because this right here is an OEM Glock trigger bar. What we're after here with this trigger kit is maximum reliability. All right, so now we've got to take this off of here. So this is a little bit different. Do you see that piece? So to get it out, we're just going to rotate it up. And it comes out just like that. If this was an older Glock, you'd have a chunky spring dangling from the back of the trigger bar. So this piece here in the assembly is new for Gen 5 as well. Usually there's like this big chunky spring. So that is different. Actually, this looks easier to slide that in. So let's take this connector bar out. Use a screwdriver. Careful, right? Be careful with this. Sort of gently force it out. Remember how it goes in. We're going to install the Trigger Shark one in. There's a slight difference there. Can you see that? So in the Trigger Shark, there's a little tiny modification right here that is absent on the Glock one. And then the Glock has this weird, can't really feel it, this weird bump right there. And that is just polished completely out of the Trigger Shark one. All right, so the next step you're going to do is gently push the trigger shark connector back into the slot where you removed the stock one from. And there fits perfect. Ooh, it's pretty. Look at that. All right, now we're going to reinstall this. There's no springs to pull out or anything. It's all contained in there on the Gen 5. All right, this is going to be maybe a little tricky. Let's see. Nope. Easy. So you just want to get it kind of twisted a little bit to get it under this metal lip in there, under this piece. And this has to sit under here like this. And it's got to rotate like that. You'll feel it. There's a spring under there that you can feel when you move it up and down. So now it's ready to go back into the pistol. Let's go ahead and carefully slide it in. If it's not going in right away, check the sides. Don't just jam it in there. You might have to push something to get it to slide in like this. There we go. And on this Gen 5 G29, the ambidextrous slide stop lever goes in just like that. Next, let's put the locking block back in. And finally, let's push this main pin back through everything to get it all seated together. And I'm just going to use the plastic backside of this little Glock tool to seat that pin flush in the frame. All right, and now I've got to push this little pin back through the backside of the grip. There we go. The way I got it flush was by using the corner of that tool. I just put it in the corner here and pushed down on the pin. All right, well, that was pretty easy. Let's go ahead and put the slide back on. And there it is, freshly installed. Whoa. So the take-up is shorter now. The wall is much more defined. Reset's a little shorter, it looks like anyway. Wow, I can tell where my trigger is. Yeah. Guys, this is a lot better. I don't think it got any lighter, but we're going to, maybe a little bit lighter. The take-up is really short. And then there's the break. Reset. Guys, look at the take-up. Remember, this is how it was before. And again, this is how it looks now. Wow. All right, let's test out the new trigger and see if the pull got any lighter. Four and a half pounds. £4. 4 3/4. Almost 4.5 again. So between 4, but mostly 4.5, 4 3/4. Let's do one more. 4 1/4. So there is a trigger pull reduction there, but it's still heavy enough to use as a carry gun. And it's just a much more predictable pull now than the factory Glock trigger. And if we slow the trigger pull down, I can show you right here. That once spongy, unpredictable wall that the Glock used to have has been way smoothed out. It's still there, but it's been smoothed out. And it's more predictable that way. So you know it's going to break right here. All right, and then the reset. Smooth. And then you can hold it right there and go after another shot. Really nice and easy. Okay, now I know y'all are ready for some close-up shots to see what it looks like fully installed in a complete pistol. And as promised, thank you for watching this whole video. I'm going to go ahead now and put the discount for this trigger on the screen. It is Science 15. That's right, it's 15% off any trigger. So find the trigger for your Glock on their website, add it to your cart, and in the coupon code section, put in Science 15. That's SCIENCE 15. I'll go ahead and put a link to their website in the description on this video so that you don't have to go searching for it. But that's all I have today, folks, on this one. I hope this was very helpful and informative. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to go ahead and keep making more videos. Put it in the comments if you have experience with this trigger already. Also, if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.